I will show you a proven Sudoku strategy that I've used on hundreds of puzzles because it succeeds time and time again when other strategies fail. And with that, it's solving time. Look at these sevens. With these two sevens and this 7 right here, you can solve this cell for a 7. It's the only place it'll go in block 1. And then with these 7s and this 7, you can solve for 7 in block 2. Bring it down to these 7s. Solve for 7 right here, and then these two 7s will finish off all the 7s in the puzzle right here. Greetings, friend. This is the last classic Sudoku for my April series featuring puzzles by Julian Locke. Thank you so much, Julian, for putting these puzzles in the comments for me to solve and share with you. I saved the hardest one for last because it perfectly builds on concepts from previous puzzles that I've featured, plus requires a proven and powerful, very powerful Sudoku strategy not seen in the other puzzles. And before I show you that proven strategy, I want to hear from you. Do you find single candidate strategies like X-wings or skyscrapers, or bi-value strategies like X, Y-wings or remote pairs easier? Which one's easier to you to find, see, and apply? Please, please, please let me know. Share this in the comments with the other viewers to help me grow the internet's best Sudoku community. And to get to this proven strategy that I love and use time and time again, you first need to understand all the digit restrictions from 1 to 9. So if you look at the ones, with this one cutting across, you have 2 places for a 1 in block 6. So I'll mark that, and these are a pointing pair. Since they're in the same row, you can't put 1s anywhere else along that row, or you exclude 1s from block 6. Coupled with these ones, only 2 places for a 1 in block 5. And these are the restrictions you want to find. Mark any time a candidate can only appear 2 times in a 3x3 block. Nothing else you can do with the 1s right now. Go to the 2s. 2 places for 2s in block 2. And then with these 2s, 2 places in block 7. Okay, move on to the 3s. And you're kind of testing the puzzle out. You'll notice only 2 places for 3 in block 3, and then with these 3s, 2 places in block 4. If you're not making a lot of solves, it's kind of a hard puzzle to get into and do the break-in, and you'll see this puzzle is going to be pretty hard. Check out the 4s. No places or blocks where you can only mark 2 candidates for the 4s or make any solves. At this time, unfortunately, same thing with the 5s. But if you move on to the 6s, you might notice 2 places for 6 here in block 3, and then with these 6s, 2 places in block 8. We already fill out all the 7s, move on to the 8s, and you're going to be able to do some solves. With these 2 8s and this 8, you can solve for an 8 in block 9, and with these 8s, solve for an 8 in block 6, and then with this 8 cutting across, this 8 coming up, you have a pointing pair of 8s here in block 2, and then to go along with these 2 8s and this 8, you can actually solve for an 8 right here in block 5. And you notice that when you do that, you displace that 1, and so you can solve for a 1 right away. And then with the 8s, you got these 2 8s and this 8, you can put 8s in block 1. Okay, this is a similar start to last week's puzzle, but it's about to get a little bit harder. You look at the 9s, no marks we can do with the 9s at this time. So tip, just kind of go back through, see if there's any easy solves that you missed. And sure enough, with these 2 1s, you'll notice now the 1 is restricted to this cell in block 2, which displaces that 2, displaces this 8. Only thing left in block 2 is a 3 and a 9. So look at that impact, row, column, and block. In the block, because of this 3, that's a 3, that's going to be a 9. Look at the row. Across this row, you have a 1, 3, 5, 7, 8, 9. You have 2, 4, and a 6. 4, 6 right there means this has to be a 2. And this is going to be a nice 4, 6 naked pair. And when you go back through, this time start marking pairs as you find them. Across the row with this 3, you can displace that 3, solve this cell for a 3. Then you may notice, since we did the 8s, looking across the row, you can displace this 8, solve this cell for an 8. Other impact in the row. With these 2 9s now, and this 9, you can solve this cell for a 9. And then with the 9s, 2 places for a 9 right here in block 4. You'll notice now with these 1s, you got 2 places for a 1 in block 1, and with this 6, 2 places for a 6 as well. Just trying to get those marks and restrictions in. With the 3s, okay, you can check out here with these 3s, only 2 places for a 3 in block 9. And now other notes with the 2s, 2 places for a 2 in block 5. And then you might see, since the 2 covers this cell in block 5 and this 2 covers this cell, where can a 2 go in row 6? It's got to be in these 2 cells. They're limited to block 4, so this is a claiming pair of 2s, right? Because a 2 can't be anywhere in row 6 outside of this block. And then with the 4s, this 4 cutting across, you have 2 places for 4 in block 3. You have a heavy house right here. You want to look at those. It has at least 5 digits filled out. 1, 2, 3, 7, 8, 9. You got a 4, 5, and a 6. You can put a 4, 5, 6 right there. You'll notice this can't be a 4. And in the last puzzle, you had a claiming pair of 5s right there. Not happening here. And so you can't mark that. And then that's going to be about it for now. This is kind of where the puzzle starts to get harder. And so you have to start looking for advanced strategies. You can look for single candidate strategies or by value cells. Let's look at the single candidate strategies first, because this is a hard puzzle, actually rated unfair. Where can the 1s be? You'll notice 1s can be here, 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 and there. And what you might notice is the backbone of advanced strategies are conjugate pairs. So you're looking where a candidate can appear exactly 2 times in a row, column, or block. If you look in column 2, you'll notice that 1 appears 2 times. It can be either here. If it's not here, it can be there. Those are the only 2 possibilities. Now match that to another column. Look at column 8. It looks like the 1s are restricted to the same 2 rows, rows 1 and 9. So 1 can be there or there. When you put them together, you'll notice that if a 1's here, it blocks 1s from these 2 cells, and you can solve for 1 right there. If a 1's not here, has to be here, which blocks 1s from these 2 cells. And then you can solve right there. So 1's going to be there and there, or there and there. This is a Sudoku X-Wing. This is awesome stuff, very powerful. And like I said in the thumbnail, very powerful as it is, it's not as powerful as the featured proven strategy that you're going to need a little bit later on. But this will help you make some solves. With the next wing, since the 1's going to be in one of these orange cells across the row, you can eliminate all the other possibilities for that candidate in those rows. Because if you put a 1 here, you'll see pretty quickly you eliminate 1s from these cells. And then in columns 2 and 8, the 1 can only go in the same row, breaks the puzzle. That's why you can eliminate a 1 from right there. What does that do for our puzzle? Well, you notice there's only 1 colored cell now in column 9. So the 1 can only go here now because of the X-Wing. So you can solve that, and you can remove this mark. And then we can finish up by marking these cells are only 2 places for the 1s. So that is the first advanced strategy. And hey, we got another solve out of it, so that was helpful. If you looked at the 2s, you might notice pretty quickly that even though we can mark places for 2s, there's not any advanced strategies here. So let's undo that. Let's do that. No advanced strategies. A lot of conjugate pairs, but they're kind of related to just within their own blocks. That won't help you. But if you go to the 3s, we're going to see something interesting here. 3s can be there. They can be here, here, there, and there. Again, you're looking for those conjugate pairs. Do you notice any conjugate pairs? Well, first of all, let me remove these 3s as possibilities because of this 3 right there. You might see 2 places for 3 in row 5, and 2 places for a 3 in row 7. And they share a column. They share column 1. The tips, though, are in different columns, but they're in the same 3-block band. And so this is actually a type of turbot fish when you have 4 cells that are connected with these conjugate pairs. Either this is going to be a 3, and any cell that sees it, shares row, column, and block, can't be a 3. If it's not a 3, forces a 3 here, this can't be a 3, and that would have to be a 3. Because of the conjugate pairs, a 3's got to be in at least one of these 2 cells. And since that's the case, you can eliminate a 3 from any cell that sees both. This particular type of turbot fish is called a Sudoku skyscraper, when it shares a column and the tips are in the same 3-band block. And so by doing this, you'll notice you can't have 3's in these cells or this cell. So it restricts the 3's to these 2 cells in block 5. And since the 2's are there, you have a nice hidden pair 2 and 3. Those are the only 2 candidates you can have there. And I cover hidden pairs and the other top most popular strategy in my Sudoku solving guide. This will help you set the foundation for these more advanced strategies. Since this has to be a 2 or 3, and you have a 1, 4, 6, 7, 8 here, this is now a 5, 9 naked pair to finish column 4. So let's remove all these colors. You can also put 3's right there, and then you might notice now the 9's are restricted to one of these 2 cells in block 5. And because the 5's right here, this can't be a 5 anymore. And now you have a nice claiming pair of 5's in block 5. You're still looking at row, column, and block impact here as we move along. And now there's a pretty powerful intermediate strategy here, also featured in my Sudoku solving guide, that you need to notice. By putting this 1 here, you put more restriction on this row. So you got a 1, 4, 7, 8. You need a 2, 3, 5, 6, 9. And so what you might notice here, 2, 3, 5, 6, 9, since the 2's, the 3's, and the 9's are not in this cell, that has to be a 5, 6. And so what you have is a nice 5, 6 naked pair. Those are the only candidates that can be in those 2 cells. And so now you end up with a 2, 3, 9 naked triple to be in the other 3 cells. And since there's a 3 right there, that can't be a 3. And because of the 2's as a claiming pair, that can't be a 2. We're introducing more BVC's by value cells. This is huge. You're going to need this if you want to solve the rest of this puzzle. You can look at more single candidate strategies. There is one more that we need to do here. But first, notice with this 5, 6 here, this can't be a 5, 6. Where are the 6's in block 6? They got to be there. So they're a pointing pair, which means this can't be a 6 anymore. You can't have a 6 here. The 6's are limited to these 2 cells. And then kind of see, what does this do to the puzzle? Now we're getting a lot of conjugate pairs restrictions with these 6's. So you do want to explore that and see, what does that mean? Where can the 6's be now in this puzzle? Will you notice they can be in all those cells? Well, they can't be here because I just did this pointing pair of 6's. So this is interesting, right? Also can't be here. So what does this do for us? Well, what you might see here is you have a conjugate pair of 6's coming down out of column 5. And a conjugate pair of 6's here in row 5. When you have this situation, you have another type of turbot fish, because you have 2 conjugate pairs, 4 cells total. What you might notice is these share a block. One of these conjugate pairs comes out of the row, the other comes out of the column. What you notice is that either this is a 6, and anything that sees it can't be a 6, including this cell right here. If it's not a 6, this has to be a 6, removes a 6 from this cell, and puts a 6 here in the other orange cell. A 6 has got to be one of these 2 orange cells. Unlike the skyscraper, this type of turbot fish is also known as a 2-string kite. It doesn't go across 2 rows and share a column, but however, there's still elimination you can make. Since you know a 6 can be in one of these cells, this cannot be a 6. And you can see pretty quickly, if you did put a 6 right here, you eliminate 6s from these cells. And then in this row and in this column, the only place to put 6 would be in both of these cells right here. You end up with 2 6s in block 5. Can't have that. That's why you can eliminate a 6 as a possibility right here with this 2-string kite. Now restricts the 6s to these 2 cells here in block 4. So it's a claiming pair. These can't be 6s anymore. Because you remove the 6 from there, claiming pair of 6s right here, this puts more restriction on the puzzle. It's going to create some more buy value cells for us. This is really nice. And that's all you're going to find with the single candidate strategies. And you're going to get stuck if you keep looking. You can go to 7s, 8s, 9s, the 4s and 5s I didn't show. You're just not going to find any more solves with single candidate strategies. So what you want to do next is start looking for those buy value cells. We already have quite a few filled out here. Let's see if there's some more restrictions you can do by looking at those heavy houses. So let's look at block 1. It's already got 5 digits filled out. So you got a 1, 4, 5, 6 here. Well, this can't be a 4 because of the 4 in the row. Can't be a 6 because of the 6 in row 3. And because of this 1, you can remove the 1 right there. So you got another BVC here, 4, 5. Nice. Now let's also look at row 7 here. You have a 2, 6, 7, 8, 9. You need a 1, 3, 4, and a 5. And as you create BVCs, you want to look at their connection between them. This can't be a 3 because of the 3 in the column. This can't be a 1 or a 5 because they're also in the column. This can't be a 3. And then this cell here can't be a 1. But you notice we created some more buy value cells. And there's a lot going on here. What do we have here? Look across row 6 now. You notice you have a 2, 9 here, 2, 6 here, 6, 9 there. All paired possibilities, but none of them are in this cell right here. So you got a 2, 4, 6, 9. None of these can be a 2, 6, or a 9. None of those can be in this cell. This has to be a 4. And if you look, you'll notice that it has to be 4, right? Because the 2s are restricted here, the 6s are here now, and the 9s are here in the block. This has to be your 4, which gives you 2, 9 here, a 2, 6 there, and a 6 and a 9 right there. All these buy value cells, can we connect them somehow? Well, if you start right here, you notice this could be a 3 or 4, right? So either this is a 3, and anything that sees it can't be a 3. So you can eliminate a 3 from this cell. The 3s are a conjugate pair along row 7. 3 can be there or there. So if this is a 3, that can't be a 3. What if it's not a 3? If it's not a 3, then this cell would be a 4. But that pushes a 6 right here, which pushes a 5 right there, which makes this a 6, this a 2, this a 9, and this a 3, which means this cell right here couldn't be a 3 either. So whether this is a 3 or a 4, this cannot ever contain a 3. This is awesome stuff. This logic is called an XY chain, and it uses the fact that conjugate pairs can be found within individual cells when you have buy value cells, because it can be one or the other. This can be a 3, but it's not a 3, it has to be a 4. You look at the impact of that, and you'll notice that it shares a 4 with this cell, which shares a 6 with this cell, shares a 5 here, shares a 6 here, a 2 here, and shares a 9 there. And you end up starting with a 3, and then with 3. This cell can never be a 3. This is a proven strategy, so powerful, use it over and over again, so powerful that other strategies like remote pairs and XY wings are part of XY chains. They're smaller, more distinct versions, not as powerful as the whole XY chain you saw here. Like, it's not limited to a certain number of cells. You could use 7 cells in this one, or less or more, and it doesn't have to contain the same 2 buy value cell digits like a remote pair does. Super powerful. And you're going, okay, Timberlake, what does it matter that we removed a 3 from there? You want to see the impact, row, column, and block. You now have a 4, 5 naked pair in column 1, which means this can't contain a 4 anymore. It's got to be a 6. And you displace 6 there. What's the impact there? That's a 4. That's going to be a 6. There's a 1, 5 here. Naked pair. But we're not done with this 6. You can remove the 6 from there. You always want to clean up the grid best you can. So with this 4, 5, this has to be now, 2, 3 for the 2, 3, 9. And you're like, okay, now what's the big deal? Well, now you got these 4s here. The 4s are limited to these 2 cells. 4 can't be here because of this 4. Where can a 4 go in row 8? Well, it can't be here, can't be there, and it can't be there. This is the only place you can put a 4. Okay, and once you saw that for a 4, start disambiguating these bi-value cells. That has to be a 5. That has to be a 6 now, which means this is going to be a 9. This is going to be a 4. The only place to put a 4 now in block 5. And we're going to be able to make some more solves. This now has to be your 3. Okay, and then this is going to be a 6 because you displaced the 6. And so keep looking here. What else can we do after making some of these solves? So with these 2 6s and this 6, you can solve for a 6 right here. And then we're going to move on and see what other solves you can make. Notice that with this 6, you can displace the 6 right there. Solve that for a 6. This is going to be a nice 2, 9 naked pair. So you have a 2, 3, 9 cutting across here. Well, I got the 2 and the 9 right there. This has to be a 3 now, which means that's a 2, that's a 3. That's going to be your 9. That's going to be your 2. Clean them all up. You want to attack these marked cells first. They're going to be the first to fall. With this 6, that has to be your 5. With the 3, that's got to be a 9. That's going to be your 2. That's going to be your 6. And just keep cleaning it up with this 2. Now that's a 3. I love this. We're gobbling up these marks. And then with that 3 and this 3, you can displace the 3 here. That has to be a 3 displacing that 1, displacing the 4. Nice. And that means this has got to be your 5 and 1 up here. This has got to be your 5 up there. And it's going to make a 4 and a 1 right here. Looking good. That's got to be your 5. With this 1 means that's a 4, which displaced the 1 and displaced the 2. Okay. Now, where can the 2 go? Here in block 9. With this 2, that's got to be a 2. You don't need to really make any marks now. You're so close to the end of the puzzle. Full house in column 9, 8 of 9 digits, and in column 8, you know you can solve these with certainty. We're just missing a 5 and a 9. With this 9, that has to be your 9. That's got to be your 5, which will disambiguate the 9 and the 5 for our last digit. Now challenge yourself to find the XY chain in this next puzzle. Thank you so much for watching.